Hello there! Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week, along with special guest Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations herself, Elise King, we're going to take a deep dive look into the Season 2 episode of The Bad Batch titled Entombed. Before we get started, I'm inviting you to join the conversation with us. We can be found on Twitter and Hive at Force Ghost Pod. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok just by searching Force Ghost Conversations. We look forward to connecting with you on those platforms. Also, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your listening site of choice. And finally, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store to buy some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Okay, everyone, welcome back to another installment of Force Ghost Conversations. And boy, are you in for a treat with this special episode talking all about the Bad Batch episode titled Entombed. And it's a really fun adventure, really based in some Indiana Jones lore, a little bit of kaiju Godzilla mix in there, all under the umbrella of what is Star Wars and the Bad Batch. And Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations and I have a really wonderful conversation, and we look forward to bringing that to you here on the other side of this break. Now, just as a heads up, because this is a midweek release, we will not be covering any news that has come out in this thus far in the week. We will be covering all that in our typical Sunday release episode, which will be kind of reviewing Willow Season 1 and getting hyped for what could potentially be a Season 2. So get ready for that, and be sure to look for that on your future podcast feeds, wherever you get your podcasts. So with all of that, we will be back on the other side of this very short break with some more Force Ghost Conversations. Stay tuned, folks. Hey everybody, welcome back to another installment of Force Ghost Conversations. And you know it's Bad Batch time. It's time to talk about Season 2, Episode 5, titled Entombed. Entombed? Entombed.
Entombed.
Entombed. I don't know. I don't know why I just got weirdly.
You say it a few more times and it loses all meaning.
Entombed.
So...
Entombed.
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 Yes.
The E is really throwing me off there. I'm overthinking it.
Yes.
Well, you've already heard the lovely voice of Mrs. Force Ghost Conversations, Elise King, who is a part of our show for the next couple of episodes yet, because we still got lots more Bad Batch to go. So welcome back to the show, Elise King. How you doing?
Good. I mean, some might call me a Bad Batch expert.
I'm going to go on a limb and say that, yeah.
It is a limb, because I don't know a lot of stuff about it.
It might not be the strongest limb but of the tree branch, but I'm gonna go on some faith here and make the trek out like Chris Hemsworth.
It's definitely not true, because I asked a lot of questions about this episode.
You're allowed to ask questions.
Yeah, it just really hinders the expert.
Let's just say the questions that you asked weren't about the plot or overall story. It was about like random details that like were tip of the iceberg things that were just like, what is that? I need to know. And they were inquisitory. They weren't like, I don't know who this character, I don't know who Hunter is. You were like, true. What are the agents? Who are the agents? Why are the agents?
Oh my God. Well, it's nice to have you in my corner.
Absolutely. Yes. And for the folks at home, that was a lead-in to our how it goes when we watch the episode at home.
Yeah. I'm always like, wait. Pause. Did they say ancients?
What do they mean by the ancients?
Yeah. What am I missing here? Did I forget something? Is that thing from Rebels?
Yeah.
And then you had to pull up a clip from Star Wars.
Thankfully Star Wars Explained did an episode this week, because probably they thought of the same thing too, or at least they do episodic episodes every day, so they need to put out content. So they're combing those episodes when they come out for new questions to ponder.
They had some good connections, but yeah, we don't know what the ancients are. End of story. We don't know.
It's not definitive.
No, we don't know.
We have some leads, but yeah, still yet to be determined. Well, as I mentioned, we are talking all about the episode Entombed on the Bad Batch, and Spoiler alert for those at home. If you haven't seen the episode yet, I mean, come on now. What are you doing? Pause the episode now. Pause this podcast episode now. Go to Disney Plus, watch it, and come back just so that you're not spoiled to anything. Because this is a really fun and exciting episode for me personally. I'll also preface to the listeners at home, we have not talked about this episode in our household. Aside from watching it, maybe just a few like notes here or there. It's like, wow, cool, that was neat.
Well, we
really haven't talked at all about this.
I just realized I was like, we talk a lot about the episode and then we get on here and I kind of already know what you're going to say. Yeah. I'd rather be surprised.
Yeah. Okay. A little inquisitory about this.
Yeah, I'd rather it be fresh.
Fresh indeed.
Yeah.
Well, we hope for the listeners at home that this is fresh too, and we'll see how this plays out. So I want to start with our first question here that I have for a discussion. So within this episode, Fee Genoa, Wanda Sykes' new character, is at the forefront, and we learn that she is a pirate / treasure hunter / liberator of ancient wonders, as she would describe it. Depending on your point of view, of course. How do you feel about her character now that we had more of a Fee-based episode rather than just like that random, 30 seconds that she's in episode 1.
I say I'm being proven right again, and I was like, she's coming back.
You're right about that. I think you even said treasure hunter too, if I recall.
And you were like, they're not just going to use Wanda Sykes for a
they just didn't do
30-second clip. I don't know. She's so fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. I love that they're using this season of The Bad Batch to lean into genre, to like celebrate. I mean, this is obviously reminiscent of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that.
Hard not to see it.
How could you not?
Last week was like Adventure, episode 1,
American Graffiti, all that.
Yeah, like Roadsters, whatever. It's just nice to see like them leaning into that tradition within animation, which is, I think, really cool.
A great space that they can do such a thing like that without people getting so riled up. Like, how dare you have a filler?
Yeah.
Even if it is a filler episode, we don't know.
I have a couple of points where I don't think it was purely filler.
Yeah, I don't think it will either. I mean, when has the Filoni team ever
been like, we don't care about this episode?
Yeah.
No, but in terms of Fee, I don't know. She's just fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's just, she's got a Hondo spirit in some sense.
Yeah, a lot of Hondo.
A little less conniving, but very like seat of your pants. We'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I made note of that I thought, and this is kind of when it goes into it not being a filler episode, but it was really fun to see her and Omega interact.
Yeah.
And I think this is also not just a Fee episode; it's a Hunter episode.
A little bit, yeah. Good. Talk more on that.
Well, so it's funny. Omega, like, obviously really leans into Fee and her vibe and, like, going on an adventure. And Hunter's kind of taken the dad role,
Yeah, he did.
He's familiar. He's now, like, worried about safety. And the reason I thought it was a little bit of a Hunter episode and, like, him, I think, a little jealous of Fee. Because what they do is, like, Omega, they show a couple episode or scenes where Omega is mimicking Fee. Like her body language, how she talks. And there was an episode in season 1 where she does that with Hunter.
Yeah.
Like,
good point. Good pull.
And so I was like, oh, it's fun to see this dynamic. Also, Omega gets to see a woman or a female presenting person. And, like, just experience something other than the Bad Batch. And Hunter has to see her do that. And I'm sure it's a little annoying.
Yeah, it's probably hard too.
And it hurts a little bit. It's like, I'm hoping that when Luna, our niece, gets older, like, she's going to run to us and, like, be like, whatever, Mom,
Yeah, we'll be the cool new thing for a hot second.
Yeah, so that's what Fee is. But yeah, so I thought I liked that Fee was a tool in some capacity to bring out this different dynamic in the group. Because Hunter was like kind of a grumple-up-a-guess.
Yeah, agreed.
Throughout the episode until the end. Now, to be fair, there was true danger.
Yeah, they were, as the episode title alludes, they were entombed for a bit.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Do you think that I read into it too much?
No, I think you're spot on with that. I think for me when I was watching, I was kind of just like, I think I alluded to this too, where it was like it was hard to separate Fee from actually just seeing Wanda Sykes on screen.
I know her voice is so like
It's iconic,
specific
and
and
it's
iconic that it's like, wow, I'm just watching Wanda
yeah,
Sykes.
it really. I know this character looks different than Wanda, but I just see Wanda up there. My brain is like photoshopping Wanda Sykes in there. So I'm just imagining her with the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really going to lead actually into my next question here a little bit here for the discussion. The way that you were discussing about Hunter and how he was kind of pushed to his limits in a way, right?
Yeah.
So Omega in the episode discovers what will eventually become a treasure map slash compass of all sorts. It's kind of an all in the box, one Swiss Army knife kind of tool for this place. And I like that it predates the Republic, as they're told, and it's like one of the, like, apparently one of the oldest things in the known galaxy.
Yeah.
And it's so old that even Tech is out of his element with providing facts on this adventure, which I thought was really cool. And in fact, like you mentioned, Hunter and frankly all of the Bad Batch in their own way seem to be out of their element on this one. And like, I don't know if you had any, maybe you caught that during the watch too, or what did you really think about this mission overall? I guess is what it comes to.
They were definitely out of their element, but I also think they were kind of getting back to their roots in some way.
Oh,
like,
that's a good point. Yeah.
Just because, like, this is the Bad Batch. Like, they're the ones that were put into impossible situations to fix it during the Clone
You gotta
Wars.
test your limits, yeah.
They're fine testing their limit. They're adventurers. They're risk takers, and they like it. I think it's been tempered because they're trying to protect Omega and also just survive in the Empire.
Right.
But you could tell, like, only Hunter fought against the idea of going on this treasure hunt.
Oh, no, they all wanted to go along.
All of them were like, I'm kind of interested.
Well, I think Echo maybe had to voice some concern where he's like, remember the last time we went for treasure?
Echo. But
but he's always a grump.
He gave up he gave up pretty quickly. And then they get there and like Wrecker's 100% in. Poor guy's the one always getting eaten. He's always being held upside down.
They always create a creature that's bigger than him that they know that he can take it.
And he's just
always guy. I can imagine just the scars riddling his body.
I know. Tech, I didn't know, but also like much more interested. So I was like, yeah, they're out of their element. They have to take the lead from someone else, which is new for them.
Yeah. They take the lead from both Fee and Omega, because Omega is really discovering a lot of this along the way. She's like, oh, this is a compass. Oh, this is I can see things here. I can
like her strategy skills really came into play here. But to me, I was like, oh, they're like doing something new, exciting, dangerous. I was like, that's what the Bad Batch does.
Yeah. But for the mission overall, they don't really get anything physically.
I thought for them a minute, because I know we talked about last week where it was like, all right, the next episode's got to be serious. Like, we've seen some serious moments in the trailer.
Yeah.
They have some big questions to answer. Solitary.
Little did we know.
Episode 3, like, really set the groundwork of, like, tough things are going to happen. It makes me a little nervous for every episode where tough things haven't happened. Because I'm like, it's coming.
Yeah. You're waiting for it down the line.
I thought for a minute this was like they were going to find a potential rebel base. Not like there was going to be rebels there, but I thought it was going to be like, oh my gosh, we found a planet in a system that's not on any chart anymore. So I was like, maybe this is like setting the groundwork for a couple episodes in the future where they're like talking to Rex and they're like, we have a place you could go.
I mean, it's the last place the Empire wants to go.
So I don't think that's going to happen. I think I looked into it a little too much, but
perhaps they would need that compass again in order to reactivate.
I was trying to find a reason for why they went other than to just have a cool adventure episode. But it is a kid show. It is a cartoon.
Look, maybe
they're going to have
maybe they just go back in and they find a way back in and they're able to take out the heart of the mountain and then just let it wreak havoc on some like.
I didn't even think about it as using the weapon. I just thought about it as like having a world to be on.
Well, of course, and it's not going to activate until you do something to it, right? You disrupt history and history fights back, right?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking if it does come back into play long term, let's say they do use it as like a base of operations. Let's say like Sid's place is no longer safe.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like there's a lot of people fighting to take the land on this planet. It looked very desolate,
Yeah.
war torn, obviously, burnt to a crisp. I think is a great way to describe it because the way that it looked was like very ashy after a tremendous uh, big bolt of fire, and which is basically what the laser beam that monster is
Yeah.
shooting is.
Let's just say there'd be more imports than exports if rebels did escape.
Yeah, exactly. And then if let's say the Empire did find out where they're at, or they just had a vendetta against them and sent like a legion of troops there, they could easily just say like, "All right, you work your magic, boss."
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was like, obviously, it's tip of the iceberg storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there's a reason for everything, but could that reason be we just needed to get to know Fee more because she's important? This place is important. Omega growing was what was important.
It's probably more than anything a character.
Yeah, character development. But I was like,
pushing them to their limits, testing out what they can do,
yeah,
becoming one as a team.
Yeah.
Again, reestablishing that.
Also reestablishing how the team functions now that Omega's a little older.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And bringing Fee into the mix more, as you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're just, we're seeing them develop relationships with allies they would have never considered before. So it was Sid last week, Fee this week.
That guy on that planet from the first episode, who kind of helped them out along the way.
They're building little connections all over.
A network.
This next week, though, I have a feeling. I had a feeling every week, though.
Listeners, that's going to be like a recurring line.
Yeah.
We should make the t-shirt now.
I have a feeling.
I had a feeling this episode was going to rip my heart out.
No, it was fun. Yay!
But next week, it's coming, guys. We're getting close to midway through the season, and I've watched a lot of TV in my life, and I know midway through they leave you.
Yeah.
So I did want to talk about the planet for a little bit in case you had any thoughts here. I believe it's technically is it kind of Scaranol, or is that just they didn't really say the planet was named Scaranol. They just referenced like the legend of it and like this place that they were going to, potentially being Scaranol. But I thought that the animation for the planet was spectacular, and especially once you watch the entire thing and you realize why it's so desolate.
Yeah. I mean,
did you have any thoughts?
Monster...
I just want to say if you asked me any thoughts about it, and like I thought I did a good job animating it, but I want to let you have a platform to speak to.
I honestly thought for a minute in the beginning, I was like, why is the animation not capturing me? And I was like, it's because Wanda Sykes' voice. Like, I just picture.
I'm so out of it.
I'm so out of it. In the good way. I enjoy it. She has, like, great comedic timing, obviously, and all this stuff. So, but it just, like, it took me out of the world for a minute.
Yeah. The coloring also almost went like black and white too when they landed on this planet.
It definitely had that I don't remember black and white, but it had like that sepia tone, like old school. I don't know, just very Indiana Jones feel. But I'm not gonna lie, like when that Transformer came alive,
basically like a Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah, and we see like them starting to slowly move, just like in the monster movie. I turned to you and I was like, "What is happening?" It would have been a great video if we had had a reaction.
Yeah, that would have been great content for the listeners at home. We would technically become viewers at that point.
I was like, "It's a Transformer!"
Yeah, you were like, "What?"
It's a god. It's a plane.
You know what it reminded me of? The planet overall and the look of it?
Yeah.
My initial thought went to, you may recall from Thor Love and Thunder, there was that like black and white planet.
Yes, that's what it reminded me of.
That's really what I thought of first. I was like, oh, this is cool. This is a unique
You're aware
avenue.
Of the planets in the Star Wars universe a lot better than I am. I have a hard time keeping track of them.
With time and effort and patience, you two will learn. All right, so let's talk about the meat and potatoes of the episode. So, the legend of Scaranol, the heart of the mountain. I mean, the Indiana Jones inspiration is strong with this one. That's maybe putting it kind like lightly. I'm not even there's a lot of Indiana Jones in this. It's basically like
Indy.
the team watched all 4 to this point films, and then we're like, we need to make a Bad Batch episode now.
Like the only heavier nod they could have done is if like Indy's hat blew in and Hunter picked it up.
Yeah, if Hunter started wearing a hat.
What?
Or poor Tech starts wearing a hat now to cover up his
I
balding.
I thought there'd be more flirty banter between Tech and Fee, but she kept it appropriate.
Yeah, I don't know if Tech really understands.
No, he wouldn't. That's why it'd be funny.
Yeah.
But that's a kid show.
Kid show. Well, you never know.
Yeah.
Anakin and Padme were in a kid show once, so.
Oh boy.
But yeah. I assume you got the same vibe that there was a lot of indie tones in this.
Yeah, of course.
And I thought too, for me, the music from Kevin Kiner really brought it home.
Oh my gosh, you should see my notes. It's just all caps. Music, yes,
that is literally.
I was like,
I can confirm for the listeners that it is a note in all caps saying music.
I was just like, wow, this brings me in. I feel like it's a mixing of genres. I can't believe animation gets a score like this.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait for it to come out on like Spotify or whatever.
Let's hope.
I would listen to it all the time.
Specifically, it reminded me, like, the inspiration was there from the scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark where he uses the Staff of Ra to illuminate the light on where.
Oh, is that where? I mean, I don't know Indy like you know Indy.
Yeah, but where the Well of Souls is.
Yeah.
There was that. It was also Last Crusade when he's going at the end of the movie when he's doing all the tasks to get to.
That's what I thought the most was
to the Crusader.
The Last Crusade.
And lastly, a lot of the puzzles along the way, and the fact that this turned into a monster, like at the end, like a technical monster, a Mechagodzilla, which is also a little bit of an inspiration for this too. Like someone watched some kaiju films and said, "Let's make." It'd be cool if this turned into like a disastrous monster that can destroy the landscape.
It's like the creators were like, or the writers were like, this is Star Wars.
Yeah.
We can literally do
whatever we want.
Whatever we want. And then they brought their dreams to life.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about that in a second, but the last one is the puzzles and just the feel overall was very Kingdom of the Crystal Skull to me. To this point, the last Indiana Jones film.
I thought for sure when they got to that, I was like, how big of a nod are they going to do? Because I thought for sure when they got to that last part where they saw the heart of the mountain, I thought they were going to have to walk across the thin air.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, wow, they're really going to do it.
My brain, in trying to finish out the story before it finished, was like thinking like, oh, is it going to be interdimensional beings? Are they going to do that like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? Is it going to be the Crystal Skull?
I really thought it was... Because Star Wars has talked about like pre-Jedi Force users before.
Yeah.
With the son and daughter and the father.
The Mortis concept.
Yeah. And I was like, this is where we're going with it. But no, it was Godzilla, which is also cool.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it gets to my next point here, which is like once they find the heart of the mountain in true Indiana Jones fashion, once you remove the artifact, everything starts to go nuts and haywire. And it turns out the thing that they've been traversing is also the giant robotic monster, a la like a Godzilla, a Mechagodzilla, probably more apt. You talked about this a little more, but feel free to to say I've talked about this already. But what did you make of the wild twist? Like, I know you like your immediate reaction was there, but like, do you have any other thoughts on like what it could mean?
Know what it can mean. I think I was a little surprised. I mean, it really was like a monster that they can't control. Because I was like, oh, they're going to get it under control. They're going to learn how to do something other than let it destroy everything in its path. But no, it was like destroy it or lose everything.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. And then we both turned to each other and was like, the poor droid.
Oh, Mal, the droid. It's a good thing that Fee can just rebuild her.
We were like, oh my gosh. We looked at each other with the biggest eyes and we're like, really?
Of all the casualties in this, of course it's the one that they introduced in the episode, but for whatever reason, we just gravitated to that chonky droid.
Yeah, it's a chonkers.
It was a chonker.
But I was like, whew. But yeah, that was funny.
Yeah. I thought was neat, and again, talking about the inspiration from Godzilla and kaiju films, is that Godzilla is created by the idea of like an atomic weapon being like it's something that's laying dormant, right? It's sleeping,
Yeah.
it's peaceful, and you awaken it, and that's when like or you make it mad, you do something to it, you awaken it, right? And you have to put it back to sleep somehow in some way.
Yeah.
So by removing the heart, it made it mad. So then you have to put it back to set it back to place again, which I thought, okay, so they watched Indiana Jones, they watched some Godzilla films, they were like, let's make a baby of it and call it the Bad Batch Entombed.
Yeah, like this is the best.
It really was. And so they have to return the heart of the mountain in order to make it alive. So basically, they leave without the treasure in hand. But I feel like they are not leaving empty-handed. I think we've alluded to this already. So what themes or overall thoughts can you really glean from this adventure? And this is really also my last question too.
I don't know, themes. I mean, there's always a risk to treasure hunting.
Always a risk, yeah, of course.
Sometimes the treasure is not meant to be found.
Yeah, sometimes don't disturb. It wasn't meant to be disturbed. Don't disturb history for the sake of disturbing it.
Yeah. I think beyond that is really about getting to know Fee more. I just feel like she's going to be more and more important this season. And also just seeing the team work together again. And I do think there's going to be some questions between Hunter and Omega moving forward. There's just like kind of hints of what's to come wrapped in a really fun episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that you when you look at the question like this and you look at the inspiration being Indiana Jones predominantly.
Yeah.
When you look at the main artifacts of each thing or the purpose for each movie, Indy doesn't get it at the end.
No, he never gets it.
He never gets it, right? The Ark of the Covenant is in a warehouse in Vegas or in Area 51. The Sankara stones are returned back to the villages in India. The Cup of Christ is lost in that tomb.
It's not about, it's not about the treasure, it's about the adventure.
It goes elsewhere. So it's about the journey. It's about the adventure, the fun of it all.
I would say like the true like indie theme of letting it go was done in episode 2 with the treasure.
They did that. Someone really watched Indiana Jones before writing this season.
I mean, I think also it's going to be like, I mean, I think Echo's brought this up again already, but like, why are we going on treasure hunt? Like, if that's all we're doing, what's our purpose? So I think again, lots of conversations are starting. They're not being resolved, but we're coming up to the halfway point. So I'm imagining that we're going to start seeing them play out a little bit in full.
That's a really good point, because you're right. Echo is starting to be like, what? Why are we doing more?
Yeah.
We should be doing more, and we can and should be doing more versus us going off on treasure hunts with Fee. What purpose does that give to the galaxy other than we're soldiers?
Yeah. So I think more to come. I mean, we've said it every week, but
more to come. And your prediction is that you're going to be heartbroken next week.
I will say though, if it's another fun episode and it's just seeing the Bad Batch hang out together, I'm not going to complain about it.
Hey,
I'm just
we're here
anxious because of the trailer I saw, and it had some.
Yeah, the anticipation really can get to you.
Yes. Who's hurt? Who's not going to make it?
And the problem is when we get through all 16 episodes, you'll be like, oh, now I have to wait a year and a half, 2 years for another season.
Don't say 2 years.
I was hoping that. Let's hope that
Mando will distract me.
Mando will distract you, and Celebration, of course, will be in April. So the season will end in early March.
They'll celebrate Bad Batch.
And they'll do a panel probably announcing season 3 at Celebration. And they have to work on it a year in advance for the animation. So they're probably, if not already done with season 3, close to finishing it up.
We can only hope.
And then we'll see. And then, of course, I hate to be the potential person to say this to you, but you got to brace yourself that it could be the last.
Why?
They don't want to drag the story out. At least they probably have a clear.
Rebels had how many seasons?
4.
Yeah, that's one more than 3.
I mean, Resistance had 2. So
Why are we talking about this right now? We're not even done with this season
I'm just bracing
yet.
you.
You're making me mad. You're making me mad.
How dare you? I just had to
Can't
start.
I just enjoy
Yes,
this?
you can. You can go back and rewatch. I'm just preparing you.
See what he does, audience.
I'm probing.
Go on Twitter and berate him.
I'm probing the waters, but that's a great point to the fan base. Reach out to us on all of our social media channels. We'd love to continue the conversation.
Oh my God.
Speaking of Indiana Jones, I hope you saw on our Twitter feeds, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff about our new Indiana Jones inspired logo. A subtle plug for our upcoming Indiana Jones content as we head into Dial of Destiny season, which will come out in June. Any last thoughts before we head out of here, Elise?
No, I'm gonna go cry now.
Other than the fact that you're like, why would you say such a thing? All good things must come to an end at some point.
All right, we're moving on. We're moving on. Audience, help me out here. Have a good night. Have a good day.
Have a good night.
Have a good week.
Good night. We'll see you next week. Well, with that, everybody, thank you for listening to this episode of Forest Ghost Conversations. I hope you've had fun listening to this episode. I know that I have. I don't want to speak for Mrs. Forest Ghost Conversations.
It started fine.
I had fun breaking down this episode and chatting all about Bad Batch Entombed. And until next week, we'll be back discussing episode 6, whatever that is titled. So until then, be sure to hit us up on all the social media channels. Let's continue the conversation, and be sure to share the show with your friends. Let's continue to grow the seats around the campfire that is Force Ghost Conversations. And you can find us on all major podcast platforms. So we really appreciate all that support. So until then, may the Force be with you all. Take care.